Hello, welcome to an introduction to the software used to operate the Velometrik SmartCover saddle pressure mapping system. Hi, my name's John from FitKit Systems. I'm going to take you through a screencast of the software, an introduction to finding your way around the software, firstly how to connect to it, and then a little deeper dive into the functionality and how to use it for saddle pressure mapping. So this is really sort of a technical guide to the software. To start with, we need to connect to the VeloBox, which is the supplied computer that comes with the SmartCover. To do that, we're going to open up a new tab in Google Chrome. Each VeloBox has a unique identifying code on the back of it, and we're going to tap in a local host address. So we're just going to go VeloBox. And this happens to be the address for mine, 673.local, and you will have a different number depending on your particular one. So this is the VeloBox is connected in through the local area network. And up it pops. Now up here on the left, not secure. You don't have to worry about that because this is not run over the internet. It's purely an internal network connection that's accessing it. You'll get a little pop-up message letting you know that in effect there is information boxes in a lot of different places here that you can click on. So there's a lot of little help menus built into the software here. So wherever you see a question mark symbol, if you click on that, you'll get a pop-up with additional information. So a lot of the help menu is actually built into the software. If you don't wish to show this message again, we're just going to click out of it. So at this stage, we're in the main dashboard of the VeloBox software. We can see here on the left side, there's a limited number of menu items. We see the identifier for this particular unit. We've got 4 main dialog boxes we can choose from here. The first 2, new client and my clients, will be relevant for SmartCover users. The next 2, the sit bones and the perfect system, will be relevant to SmartCube users. And so if you only have the SmartCover, you'll just be focused on the new clients and my clients aspects of this. If you subsequently have a SmartCube, which is a digital sit bone measuring box, then there's some additional functionality here for this. You'll notice there's an English language symbol up here, and there's the ability within settings to change to other languages. There's also some options to change the background image over here. So the first thing we're going to do is dive a little into the settings. So little 3 dots over in the top right here, if we click on that, we get a number of drop-down menu items here. And the one we're going to go into is System. And within System, there are a number of places you can click for different aspects. So the ones that might be relevant to you are changing the background, changing the language, connecting via Wi-Fi, maybe doing a system restart. So let's take a look at this little icon right here. We click on that. Here's how we can do a reboot. So if the software is working but maybe something else isn't, or we need to restart the VeloBox, we can do it right here. If you have a SmartCube, we can add it there. If there's software updates, this can happen over here. Mostly self-explanatory. One we'll come back to later on is custom protocol information. So this is if you're generating a bike fit report out of the VeloBox software, you're able to customize some of the data fields through this section right here. So let's come back to the dashboard. What we're going to do next is move into adding a new client and retrieving clients. So this is if someone's coming in, we want to do saddle pressure mapping. We don't have them in the system already. We want to create them. Super simple. You're just going to type in first name, last name. They're the only required fields noted by the asterisks. The system will automatically populate a date and time, optional as to whether you add in email. So that's how we create a client there. I'm not going to create one in this case because I've got a bunch already. So it wants all of that. We're just going to reverse out of this. In my case, I'm going to go into my clients, and we can see a list of clients already in the system here. So we can scroll through or search for a client. I'm just going to search for our able tester right here. So once we've got a client, we'll see a little information here when they were created, their name, email address if you've entered it, and then sessions. And so here we have one session. If we had more, they'd be lined up underneath. We can either go into that session or create a new session. So if you've got a new client that you've just added, you're going to be coming here and you're going to be creating a new session. And then this brings us into the saddle pressure mapping visual display, and it's asking, do we want to connect to the SmartCover? And let's say we do. So we're going to press connect. It's going to go looking for a connection. Now, no device found. The battery's charged and the device is turned on. So both things need to occur. The batteries need to be charged up and we need to turn it on. So I haven't turned it on yet. I'm just going to turn it on now, pressing the button on the transmitter box. And if it fails to auto connect, then we're going to come up to this little connection icon here and click on that. This prompts our connection dialog box again. I'm going to reconnect. I do have charged batteries. I do have it turned on. So now we've established a connection. Let's see here. So we've got a little bit of a funky shape going on here. We're going to come back to that later. But what we've got here essentially are 3 display screens. The one on the left is going to be live view. So if I just tap on that, I've just got this sitting next to me here on the desk. We can see this pressure. And then these subsequent screens can be used for recording. We'll come back into those here in a little bit. Within each of these, as you can see, there is help dialog boxes, so you can get a fair bit of information as to what you're seeing on the screen through each of those. We can scroll up and down a little bit. We'll see that there's some additional menu items under these 3 dots, and this is going to be different depending on which display you're on here. So mask editing is an important feature that we will dive into subsequently. Over here in the before and afters, there's the ability to save or load or export images and add masks or not. And that's going to be the same over on this one. Down the bottom, we've got a number of controls here. We've got a contrast control, and we'll come back to that, a comparison mode, and the ability to overlay grid lines or a dotted matrix here over the cover. Under the actual recordings, we see a little camera icon here. This is where we can start recordings. We can see the ability to add saddle brands, types, and some additional information. So we've got some text box we can enter into here once we're underway. So let's come back to what's going on here. So to start with, so we've just gone in here and we've turned off mask. So I want to explain what masking is. So the SmartCover device is a very large piece of fabric with thread-based sensors in it. Although it's shaped a little bit like a saddle, it's oversized from the saddle. And we want to sort of prune this down to reflect the saddle. And doing that is called masking. So there's the ability to turn the mask editor on or off. There are a couple of 3 defaults here when you first start using this, either no mask or a narrow mask, which will change the shape. So what's in pink out here won't be recorded. What's in black will pick up pressure. You're probably wondering why there's pressure here. I'm going to show you that. And then there's the opportunity for a wider saddle, which is picking up a little more area here. You can also edit how this looks. So what we've got happening here at present is I've got this cover sitting on a saddle, and as it folds over the back, the fold in the material is creating a pressure point. I'm just actually going to lift this up and let it hang down as if it was on a saddle. So I've got a saddle in the air with the SmartCover on it, and we're seeing some pressure showing up simply through bending in the fabric. If we keep that and we then have somebody sitting on the saddle, it's going to distort the readout. So we want to take that out. So by going in here, we can try one of these two masks to start with. If they don't knock it out, then what we want to do is, with the mask editor on, come back in here and start clicking on those dots, and we're taking those out of the equation. So we're defining a new shape here. And so once we have no, and this is done without anyone on it, so with the SmartCover just on top of a saddle, we're just clicking that off. Once we've done that, let's clean that up. We can, if we want to do this for future reference, we can save that mask and we can give it a name. So we're just going to give this a name here. And we can then subsequently use that later on. So here's a number of my masks. So these are all saddles I've created here. We've actually got a couple of test saddles. And so we're able to sort of choose saddles, and we can delete saddles as well. If we don't want that saddle in there, we can just delete it. Okay. So at this stage, then once pressure comes onto the saddle, we're not getting interference from any artificial folds in it. So masking is kind of step one when setting someone up to be on the saddle pressure. So something I want to show you here is this contrast dial. If that's turned down low, we sort of just get a few primary colors with saddle pressure. And there's a number of gradients to this where you get sort of more refined color definition. And you can see this like a rainbow here. So dark blue, so red's the highest. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. So as we come down through the rainbow, we get less and less pressure. And so most people intuitively understand this just looking at it, but sometimes it needs a little explanation. But we're going from high pressure to gradually lower and lower pressure here to no pressure at all in this situation. So we can change that sensitivity. If you want a sort of more black and white, so to speak, you can have lower contrast. If you want more nuance, you can max out the contrast. Okay. Comparison mode can be toggled on and off. This will show a difference between sort of one pressure mapping session and another. But if you just want sort of raw data, leave that turned off. And then grid lines is an option depending on how you want to display things here. Okay. So this will show live data, someone pedaling, someone sitting on the saddle, different hood positions. This is a very dynamic, super fast responsive. If we want to capture data, we come over to the next screen and we hit the camera icon and we can start recording. So I've just got my hand sitting on this, not actual saddle. So it's just done a countdown and now it's actually recording the data. And so even though we're still moving around here live, and then we've captured that. So at this stage, it's prudent to put in the brand of the saddle, the model, and information about what that position is that we're assessing, or some notes about that. So this may be saddle height, it may be saddle angle, it may be a leg length shim, it may be a hand position on the handlebars. So something to sort of define what the situation is with this pressure recording, or what the variables are that we're exploring. You'll see there's some overlays here in terms of a center of pressure map. Again, if we click on this, we are going to get some measurement evaluation information that you can come and read through. But we've got a pelvic stability score, we've got a left-right balance, we've got a forward-back number here. And this will auto save, even though there's a save button up there. If we come over here to the after, we'll do another recording. And so if we turn that comparison button on, we're going to see a little bit of different information appear or disappear. Here we've got a different set of numbers. So again, this will auto save. We can add some notes. I do like to get in here though and click save just to make sure I've got it. We can then keep doing this, overriding any of these, but it's nice to sort of, if we've got a benchmark pressure reading at the start, I might keep this as before. I might keep doing after ones. So let's do one more here. Show you what happens. Got a countdown. I've got this program for a 3-second countdown and a 10-second recording interval, and that's user changeable. We'll look to see how to do that. So at this stage I could go in here, and if I go to load, these are a number of ones that we've got. So we can choose to add in, so this is our before, the first after, the second after. So we can say, well, we don't want this one, we want, this one again. And that'll pull that back in there. So you can toggle between what images you wish to display. And that becomes significant because when we go to this green arrow here, that will bring these two images that you've selected across onto the next page for more note-taking and evaluation. Let's go up to this little settings button here. Here's where you can potentially change some of the colors in terms of some of the overlay, as well as that recording time and lead time. So if you want a longer lead-in time or a shorter one, or a longer or shorter recording time, you can adjust those in these settings right here. That's under this little box here. Okay, so that's the basics of taking it. We need to mask a saddle, do an initial recording, add some notes, do subsequent recordings, decide which ones we want to pull through. If we click on this arrow here, we're coming into essentially a report feature that ultimately can be sent out as a PDF. But the two selected images will show up here, and there's additional facility here to either change out the image or to make it a little bigger for viewing. So we can go in here, we can load a different image, or we can look at the 3D view of this, and one can mouse that around. There's a default setting. You can sort of click on buttons to rotate. We can change it from bars to dots or to lines. So remember, this is just a hand on the saddle, not a actual butt. So ability to play around with that should one wish to see what's going on from a completely different perspective. There's the ability to save that as an image as well. So let's cancel out of that. There's going to be an update in the software that brings that functionality forward onto the previous page, but currently this is where it's at. If we have made notes around the brand and type of saddle, that's all going to show up here, and the other saddle measurement info shows up here as well. So we can come back here to either the gallery of images, the report page, or our client name. So there's the ability to sort of go back over here on the left. See, now we've got two sessions here, noted by their date. Let's come into this one again. Going to protocol brings us into the report. Continuing brings us back into the recording page. If the connection's dropped out, it will auto disconnect after some period of inactivity. We can just connect that up again. Okay, so that's the basics of navigating around, changing settings and recording time, making notes, saving notes, changing images, masking. This is something we'll need a little playing around with for sure here. Take that one out. Let's see if we want to make sure the masks are turned on over here. We can do that as well, so that way we're seeing the shape of the saddle. So if we change the mask, let's just change it on the live one. Okay, all right. Let's come back over into the protocol. The protocol is essentially the report. This is a German word that's sort of like medical history, is kind of what that translates to. If we come down here, we can see there's the ability to actually add some bike fit measurements. We may record those coming in, we may record them going out. There's the ability to freehand in some notes. And then you can add additional text-based data field notes here through the system settings and this custom protocol information. So this is where you would add a heading. So if we wanted to add a heading, we might say more about the saddle. And then cancel out of that to the dashboard. Okay, so that's the quick and dirty overview. There's plenty of things to explore here. We can shrink the menu or expand it. The tools here are largely irrelevant unless you've got the SmartCube. So it's really dashboard, clients, adding, retrieving, creating sessions, new sessions or retrieving sessions, diving in there, getting into the pressure mapping, connecting to the SmartCover, putting the SmartCover on a saddle and playing around with masking. So yeah, there we can see a little bend in the fabric causing that. So we'll want to add some sort of mask. So yeah, you can start with a default, depending on the saddle you're on, see if that works, or if not, turn on the mask editor and start knocking pieces out of the feed. And then carrying on, defining your recording time and countdown time before recording, saving information, seeing what's there. We'll do a separate session on sort of interpreting the patterns that we might see here and what can cause what. Okay, have at it. Thank you.